How's everybody doing? What you're going to see today, we called it the secret sauce, but really it's kind of a grouping together of league activations. And I'll hit a few high topics, if you will, words that I think are important that really are the secret sauce. Some of the things that you see today will be, man, we did that 20 years ago. We did that 6 weeks ago. We've never done that before. So there's a lot of information here, but unlike most seminars that I do, and I said this when I've given this one in the past, I'm breaking every rule that there is about giving quality seminars. If you go to school, they'll tell you no more than seven lines down, 6 words across. No more information. Don't put too much information on the screen. Don't give away too much. But what we wanted to do with this seminar was also give you something to take home. And that's this league development guide. Everything that we're going to go through here today is in this league development guide. There are no secrets. There's nothing that you wouldn't be able to get that isn't in here already. But we're going to walk you through it. I want you to be able to take it home with you, and then we'll be here to help you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Chad Murphy, and I've been Managing Director of Youth at the Bowling Campus for the last 3 years. And it's been a real labor of love. It's been a lot of fun every day. We get to the bowling campus, look up at the building, and think about just getting a few more kids to go bowling more often. That's just kind of our goal. But in the end, we can only do so much from the campus. I mean, everybody says, oh, that national group, they're responsible for so much. Well, no, not really. We're really responsible for servicing you and building tools and providing resources. We're a service organization, if you will, to help you enhance your businesses on the BPA side. On the USBC side, provide benefits to our members that, in the end, improve bowling. And so what you're going to see here today, some people will call them tricks, right? A hook to get kids or families into bowling, a VIG, if you will. The reality is they are just tools for anyone to use or activate. I would like for everyone in here to kind of keep an open mind. And I say that if you have something that you don't see here today that you think is viable, I'd like for you to raise your hand and say, hey, I got an idea that might work. I say it all the time. Don't wait for a national program. Just get in there. Everybody's going to have something today that they think about that might work in getting more kids to go bowling in your local market. Just do it. It'll work. There's a lot of ways to do this. It's doing nothing that's getting us in trouble. I mean, we got 3,500 centers in this country that certify youth. A big majority of them have less than 50 kids. We're still stuck on Saturday mornings for the most part. 50 million kids doing something else on Saturday mornings. And we've been combating that for years. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sunday afternoons are now the times that need to be added. I had somebody recently ask me, I used to have 350 kids in my program. I got 50 today. How do I get them back? And I said, well, what do you offer? Well, we have a Saturday morning program. Okay, well, hold on just a second. Do you have space to add a Tuesday program? Well, yeah, probably. How about Sunday afternoons? Well, yeah, probably. What if I told you I could get you back to 350 kids? But you had to offer 4 youth offerings across 4 of your 7 days of the week rather than just 1. Would that work? Well, I don't know why not. And so that's how it starts. And that's how the snowball starts rolling down the hill. We're going to talk about marketing materials. We're going to talk about these programs. And we'll cover a lot of ground. Uh-oh. So why this segment? When I presented the business plan to put the youth departments together a number of years at the BPA board level, I had a board level member say, why are we spending so much time and energy on youth? It's less than 6% of my business. I need to get focused on the things that are important. I think I heard the future right here. There's a reason why it's less than 6% of our business. It's because we've lost that kind of focus and energy to drive towards this area. And I don't really know what happened. I will tell you, I've spent my entire life in this industry. I grew up in a Saturday morning youth bowling program, my mother's. I bowled in my grandfather's bowling center. I believe in the way we operate youth bowling. I absolutely do. But in all of those years and being in this industry as a bowler, pro shop guy, consumer products brand manager, if you will, I didn't spend a nickel of time thinking about youth bowling. I mean, not even a little bit. In that old 13 years of working on the business side of the sport. And for some reason, there were a lot of other folks that weren't thinking about it either. And so if we'll just get our minds into some of the things that we talk about here, but youth bowling is the key to the success of the competitive side of the game. How many of you agree bowling historically is a generational sport? My grandfather taught me. I'm sure some of your mothers or fathers taught you. It's passed down that way. And so if you can get your mind wrapped around that and take the next step, right, one step forward. We used to have a whole lot of certified league bowlers. Now we don't have as many. We probably skipped one, maybe two generations. That makes sense? So our customers to grow probably aren't inside our four walls already. So we've got to go get outside of our four walls. The growth isn't going to happen organically like it did for a number of years. And that's an important thing to think about. Youth bowling is the key indicator for our growth in the future. We might have 30 to 40-year-olds that come and go that never bowled before and they come and leave. But if we want to build key connectors, real advocates for the sport, like myself and a lot of the folks that work in the youth department at the campus, we've got to start them young. We've got to cultivate. We've got to build. And somebody else asked me, when does all this youth work pay off? And we're investing money on it. When does it pay off for bowling? Well, if we floor a new youth league, it pays off, but not really. We floor a new high school program if we build some additional programming. But the reality, none of this really pays off until 20 years from now, when the kids that we're bringing in now have kids and their kids are bowling. You really have to get yourself in that mindset. Now, did I say that you couldn't drive revenue from the kids today? No, I did not. We can certainly drive revenue from these kids. We can build our profitability. But it doesn't, the big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is when we get back to passing it down generationally. And I hope that makes sense to everybody, because that's not an easy thing to do. We need to keep our doors open today. And so we make decisions on short-term vision. I say it all the time, I'm going to run my business like I'm going to be here 20 years from now. And if I do that and I make decisions in that way, we'll be more successful. And that's why this segment over some of the others. We must engage, we must focus. These kids have to have fun. They have to be taught a skill. This whole secret sauce thing probably boils down to giving kids what they want, when they want it, immediately recognizing their achievements, and having adults be the synergy to all of that. Coaches. Wait, it's kind of an intimidating word, right? I don't know how to coach. Okay, team moms. Team managers. Super cat herder. Right? What's the easiest way to give a child recognition for something? Child throws a strike for the first time. Yeah, just somebody standing there. Right? That's it. That's all it takes. And that's the easiest way. But are our youth programs together today servicing those needs? Do we have a team mom or somebody there in the center on that pair doing that right there? We believe it's an awards program. They bowl their first 200 game, they get a patch 6, 8, 10 weeks later. And those things are important too, don't get me wrong. Certificates that can be built. But there's nothing better than just a high five and a way to go, son. Good job. Good work. And so therefore, the IBC Youth was created to help proprietors to deliver, which will enhance their profitability. This youth department was built for bowling, whether it's local association work or proprietors. I always call it locals. We're here to service the locals. What's a local in the area of youth bowling? Define it. It's defined as anybody that's activating youth. Could be a youth director in a center. Could be a GM, right, that's doubling as the youth director, league coordinator, the snack bar, restaurant manager, and also the person that's activating youth. That person needs us to help them even more than anyone else. So our tools have to be easy to understand and easy to implement. We've built an online portal If you guys haven't seen it yet, it's bowl.com/youth resource center. Everything that you would need to operate youth bowling, any of it. I mean, how to get a high school program in your backyard, how to start up a middle school program, Bowlopolis, birthday parties, what your party host should be doing through those parties. Any piece of information, how to buy a USBC youth membership, a plethora of information about tournaments that you can run, marketing materials. Marketing materials. This is where I always get in trouble because it always sounds like I'm taking shots at people, but our way of marketing within bowling programs is to take a one-page flyer and fill it with everything we do. Lines of information, 1,500 words on a piece of paper. And then we ship it to a consumer in a one-size-fits-all fashion. Is that a better way than join a team, compete with friends, and learn how to bowl? We've got to get down to the customer, to the market, to the key indicator. Who inevitably is probably going to make the decision to whether a child bowls? Mom, it isn't my house. In every way that my kids do. I like to think that I have input and that I'm really an important part of their lives. But the reality is Mom makes a lot of these decisions. So think about that flyer that we've been doing with that 1,000 words on it versus that one right there that says join a team, compete with friends, learn how to bowl. What's Mom going to think there? The cluttered one or the message? The message. So that Youth Resource Center, and I'm going to back up for a second. There's all kinds of different tools, and if you haven't been there, please go check it out. We work on it really daily. Elizabeth, who's in the back of the room, manages the program for us. But every time we do something new, we get a new idea, something from the field, somebody sends something in. We're going to have one of those presented to you today. We just put it out there as a how-to guide, something that you could activate. It's a little bit of a story, right? That's given to you so that you can activate in your local center. And all of our programming exists within it. And I want to hit this one just as a piece, but how many of you are currently using Bowler's Ed? That's not enough. Thank you for those that are. The idea that a PE teacher would teach bowling for us. I mean, think about that. All the time and energy and things that we do in our daily lives in a bowling center is operating it. If we could get somebody else to do it at very little to no charge, wouldn't that be a good thing? Getting bowling into our schools is a huge piece of this puzzle, and Bowler's Ed is the vehicle to do that. And if you don't know anything about the program, we won't be covering it today, but there's a gentleman in the back of the room. His name's Sean Clancy. Everybody look back at Sean. Actually give us a little wave. Right, yeah. Talk to Sean this week. Come by the booth. The carpets and everything will be out so you can see him. Or go to the Youth Resource Center, pull up Bowler's Ed. We'll send you a proprietor kit. The beauty of that program is it's, for the most part, free. We deliver all the materials to you for free. You can download them right here, or you can send us a note and we'll send them to you directly. But it's a free program. There's some cost when you get into the pins and balls and, the pins, balls, and carpets. But the curriculum that's been developed for a PE teacher to teach it is completely free of charge. Drop it off at your school. Give it to the PE teacher. They may activate it from there. Just one simple gesture of goodwill. And you might have a school teaching bowling. All you got to do is drive by and drop off the curriculum. The good thing is you send us a request, we send your curriculum. We don't actually qualify it at all. You just say, hey, I'd like to have one of those Bowler's Ed curriculums. We send them. That makes sense to everybody? So if you haven't checked out this website, please do. There's a lot to it. Again, as we go along here, you'll hear certain things like marketing materials. Facts. There are several signs of a good organized program. Youth feel like they're part of a group or something special. They have the opportunity to develop relationships peer-to-peer. The program has goals that encourage youth to achieve great things. What in itself does somebody want when they choose to do something? How many of you think bowling is a game? How many of you think it's an activity? How many of you think it's a sport? Right, we all get to that. When we enter When an 8-year-old enters bowling, is it a sport? It's not. It's an extracurricular activity. It's something that we do different from school and family. I mean, that's it. It's an extracurricular activity. And so there's no understanding of the sport at that point. And so what's going to make them stay? If they come in and they bowl 53, and then they bowl 47, and then they bowl 31, and the next time they come back they bowl 31 and 28 and 15, my point is they've got to get better. Increased self-confidence and self-worth is the secret to having a child want to do something again. That is not going from a 200 average bowler to a 220 average bowler. That's 52 to 54. I mean, we're not that's keeping the ball in the lane as opposed to the ball going in the gutter. That's getting from the back of the approach to the foul line without falling down. I mean, think about how hard it is to play our game when you first enter. And then think about all the things that we have to cultivate. Program that has rules to hold participants accountable to certain standards. My buddy Kim Sims, Kim, you're here, right? We know you believe in that one, don't you? It's a big part of what we do. We can't just turn the lights on, pitch them out there, and just let them do whatever they want. You'll have kids running up and down the approach, 7-year-old going from lane 3 to 8 or 12. I mean, it'll just be pure chaos. So that's a piece of the puzzle as well. Youth can take on leadership roles. They get to a certain age. Maybe they're helping manage the little kids. Maybe they're part of your activation. Leadership is a big part of it. The program is appropriate for the age group. Does a 17-year-old girl and an 8-year-old boy want the same things? How about a 7-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl? How about a 15-year-old boy and a 7-year-old boy? They don't want the same things, but yet most of our programming is built in a one-size-fits-all fashion. We've been giving them a jersey that looks exactly the same for the last 3 or 4 years and thinking that we're doing something really, really, really productive. Now, I believe in apparel, and I believe in teams and team colors, but it's got to be age appropriate. We want 8-year-olds bowling with 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds. We don't want 8-year-olds bowling with 17-year-olds. We believe that handicap is the secret to making that make it okay. It really isn't. It's got to be age appropriate. There's a place for handicap on the recreational side of this game. There absolutely is. Within 8 and 9-year-olds. But you don't want those little kids bowling with the big kids. You just really don't. The program involves parents and peers. I covered that earlier. We spent a lot of time researching this. I would encourage everyone. There's 2 wonderful studies. One's extracurricular activities, or the importance of extracurricular activities. You Google it. It was done by the University of Nevada, Reno. And there's another one that's called Youth Sports in America. It was commissioned by Michigan State. If you're activating youth in any way, just read those studies. Boy, it'll give you the whole key to the kingdom, if you will. But how many of you, and this is what you should be asking yourself, my youth program today, well, I get 2 of those, or I get 3 of those. You got to have them all. That's the commitment. If you don't fit in every one of these areas, we're not doing all we can. And I say that, I say this in every seminar. I'm here to challenge you as much as I am to help you. But the basic fact is if our program doesn't deliver all of these bullets, we're not going to be as successful as youth baseball and youth soccer. And make no mistake about it, bowling is a brand. It's a sport. It's an activity that competes with other brands and sports and activities for the time and energy of our kids. And so if their program's built in a way that makes sense and they're getting the instruction, and if they're getting the structure, and they can be leaders, and they can be coached, and they can be all of those things, and we're turning the lights on a Saturday morning with none of that, which one are they going to choose? Please, everybody start shaking. I get it. I'm with you. We'll move on. If we can all get to that, I'm in it. That makes sense to me. I mean, something as simple as a child who wants to be a leader, being able to be that in a program because the structure is in place. We're asking them for a commitment to their teammates and the other things that are going on. It's not a downer. It's not a reason for them to leave. It's a reason for them to stay, and they will. In the end, what's it all about? All that, by definition, is going to produce a kid, a child, an athlete that's having fun. Because in the end, I mean, as you're 7, I mean, what do you really want to do? We'll go outside and play with your friends, hit that Xbox, you know, even all the way up to 12 and 13 years. We want to have fun. We want them to have fun as parents. I mean, the stress that comes with the real world is going to come soon enough. So we just want them to have fun. And if we give them all of these things, they will have this, and bowling will start to grow again. Again, we grew at one point in time, right? Didn't we? I think we did. Pretty sure we did. I know we did. I believe we can again. Not everybody believes that, but I'm a believer. I appreciate that, Jack. And if you're here, that means you think we have an opportunity because you're taking the time and the energy to be here. But I promise you, it's right here. This is the secret sauce. Let's give you some ways to actually do it. League development, we've dumped these things into categories, if you will. Get them in, get them excited, get them committed. We get them in as an extracurricular activity. We build some affinity, right, by getting them excited, and inevitably it's a sport because now they're committed. Get them in, get them excited, get them committed. We recruit, we retain, we build for the future. It's a development cycle. And so everything that you're going to see today really dumps into some categories. We've got a couple new things that we haven't really talked about. The rest of these things are just basically core competencies that we should be doing as just business builders, if you will. The All-American Family Tournament. You can go straight to the League Development Guide. It's right there for you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading off of each of these slides because I want to get to some other folks in the room and tell some stories and feel good and get you guys ready to activate some leagues next week when you get back home. Because it really doesn't matter, right? When you activate them, whether it's fall, winter, summer, we could just floor youth leagues all the time, couldn't we? If it wasn't 30-something weeks at a time, right? So we launched it this morning. How many of you were at the meeting this morning? Very few, probably a few of you. We're really excited about this. We really believe that we as bowling centers, as bowling, generally speaking, we need to re-engage the family. When I was a kid, family twosome was prevalent. We all bowled it. It was something you look forward to. And we need to bring that back. So we're launching a new handicap tournament. This will be our national handicap tournament with the family in mind. Moms bowling with their daughters or dads, grandparents, uncles, aunts, but family of some way. They're into 4 divisions. It's positioned just simply to just get more families back into the center. But make no mistake about it, it's a league activation first. We're going to floor a league with a certain amount of teams, and from that league we're going to qualify a team to go to the national tournament if they'd like to. And we're going to have a bunch of folks at the national tournament. We're going to give them an experience like no other. It's really that simple. When could you floor that league? Jack, you got a question? It is a replacement to the International Family Tournament. I'm going to show you here in just a second how it still fits, but it is a replacement for the family tournament. Now, when can you run this program? You've got an adult youth league. When can you run it? Can you run it on Monday evenings, afternoons, and Thursday nights? How about Sundays? About Saturdays? Could you run it on Thursdays? Could you run it on Wednesdays? You could run it whenever you wanted to. Whenever you had lanes, whenever you had energy, whenever you had time. I call it capacity. Just run it. It doesn't really matter. There are no requirements to when you run it. You can run it in the fall, starting after August 1st. That's right. You can run it in the summer, next summer. You could run it in the winter. You could run 8 weeks. You could run 10 weeks. You could run 20 weeks. You could run it any way you choose to run it. As long as you have a minimum of 4 teams, you can qualify somebody up to the national tournament. So you've got a league activation that's going into a national tournament. To Jack's point, IFT was a kind of a local, in some states it was local, regional, and state. In other states it was local, straight to state. You want to run a regional competition or a tournament and qualify these teams up, one Saturday afternoon will do. Run it as a tournament. You want to run a regional program from your local, fire away. 1 in 4 teams would qualify up. You want to run it as a state tournament. Your state, in Florida, I know it's big, in Illinois, Kansas, some others, Michigan. Run a state tournament, qualifying 4 up to the nationals. It's literally a wide, the options here to run, you could drive a truck through. But really make no mistake about it, we're trying to re-engage the American family. That's what we're trying to do. Get more families into our centers. I'm not an anti-FEC guy and Friday nights and Saturday nights. Go drive all the revenue from that you can. Fire away. Put that money in your pocket. But at the same time, let's rebuild the organized side of the game. And this is a way to do that, if you will. Any questions about this one? You could. The spots are $125. So you divide that by the cost of your league and your lineage model. Correct. 1 in 4 isn't a mandate. It's a minimum. You can do it 1 in 8, 1 in 10, 1 in 12. This could get very inexpensive for the consumer, the larger the ratio is. Anybody in here running a junior gold qualifier or running a junior gold tournament? This is junior gold on the family side. That's all it is. The rules are almost identical. The site will be, Jack asked, do we have a site for the finals? It will be in Chicago on the front end of Junior Gold, June 7th through 20th, 7 through 9 next summer in Chicago. Need a new pair of glasses if we're going to do hand signals. But it's pretty simple. Again, just trying to get families back in. We just launched it this morning. The 10 people that know about it are really positive, including me. That's okay. Yeah. Yes, sir. It's doubles. Yeah. You can run it. You can run it a lot of different ways from a league activation. You don't even, in theory, if you're not concerned about the national tournament, you could use the marketing materials just to run a 4-man league if you wanted to. It's a revenue driver for the center. And I apologize. We're doing a marketing kit that goes with it, and we're going to subsidize the cost of the kit. The cost of the kit's about $80. We're going to sell them for $39.95 to you guys. It comes with all the good materials, counter cards, flyers, posters, banners, anything that you would need to market the place, web banners, email templates. All for $39.95, and that's thanks to BPA. They're footing the bill for that one. Yes, ma'am. The first year it will be August 1 through May 31, so August 1 of 14 through May 31 of 15, with the finals June 7th through 9 of 15, and then for the 16 tournament we will include next summer. So you'll be able to run them in the summer too and qualify folks up. Gets a little more complicated then with the timing, but yeah, a full bowling season to qualify. Put Jack down for a couple kits. I think he's ready to rock over here. Yeah. And again, you can, if you're planning on running it, get the kit. It doesn't necessarily matter when you run it. Again, you could start it this fall. You could do it in an 8-week piece right before Christmas. You could do it in an 8-week piece, January through February. You could do all of those things. It's really kind of up to you how you want to run it. But again, re-engaging the American family is the piece. Draft league. Who's running a draft league today? Awesome. Put your best bowlers with your folks like me today who aren't very good. Put the middle kids together and you have a very competitive cycle. It's a way to handicap bowling without actual handicap. I would tell you this is the way your rec league baseball and soccer and basketball work in areas where they try out. You end up with 10 coaches. They pick the kids from a tryout. The beauty of our operation is that we have averages. So you take your best average if you're doing doubles and put it with the worst average. Second with the next worst, third with the next worst. A really easy concept to understand. And what you end up with is a very competitive environment because you've got literally the same team average, if you will, bowling against each other on a regular basis. If you don't like this one for kids, run it for adults. I think you'll probably have success there too. But we're only talking about youth today, sorry. But this is something that they'll be very familiar with. There really isn't anything from any of the other sports. And again, if we're going to attract folks outside of our four walls, right, people that don't walk in today, what do we need to be to those folks? The answer is familiar. They need to understand our programming. It needs to be very easy to understand and implement. I mean, literally, if you put a draft league out to a group of baseball players for a rec league portion, nobody would even question it. But if we do it out in bowling, it's kind of a different thing because that's not the way we do it currently. We want to make everybody happy. One of the biggest challenges that I see with the way we operate is that we would literally take somebody off the street and we would just stick them in an environment. You know, they might come in with their friends, but if you just had an 8-year-old that said, hey, I want to bowl, they might end up with 3 friends who were already friends and they needed a filler. That kid's now an outsider to the group. But if you structure it in a way that makes the entire league outsiders, which makes everybody the same, you now have a successful activation. And again, this is tried and true in really every sport. Great. Jack's already been doing this for 3 summers. I'm going to stop talking for a second because there's a summer league activation that popped up this week. We had our IBC Youth Committee meets, and one of the ideas that came from the Youth Committee that is being run today, I think is a wonderful idea. And I think it's something that could really drive some revenue for centers, but also make kids really happy. How many of you are running a summer youth program, Kids Bowl Free or something like that? Okay, a bunch of you. So this is an option for you to take the next step. I'm going to invite Kim Sims to come tell us about it. Kim? Thanks, Kim. They put a face with the name, so as you're walking around the trade show this week, if you got questions about youth bowling, Kim's just as equipped as we are, probably even more so because she's been doing it for a lot of years. But it's just an example of she's doing something differently than the way that she did it before, and she's having success doing it. She didn't necessarily wait for a national program. She said, hey, what if we did this? And she rolled it out, and now she's seeing it. Those of you that are big supporters of Kids Bowl Free, I know it's driving revenue and traffic. What are you going to do to drive revenue from that group in the future? Be thinking about that. I mean, we're teaching an entire generation of bowlers that bowling is free, and that's okay because, again, it's meeting our needs. However, are we really transitioning into leagues and competitive side and those types of things? And what Kim has there is an opportunity to drive some revenue, get those kids in. You probably have to not do the Kids Bowl Free program, but you transition them into a piece that actually drives some revenue after you have the data that you've collected as part of the process. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Yeah. And you guys, the one thing I would also tell you, those that are running Kids Bowl Free and getting those databases, start talking to them. Ask them questions. We asked some proprietors to give us their Kids Bowl Free databases, and we asked them questions. And we said, if you were going to bowl in a youth league, when would you do it? And we asked them Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and Sunday afternoon. 27 lines of data that 93% of the list were non-league bowlers. And we said, when do you bowl? Or when would you bowl? all of those dates, guess what the number one answer was? Well, I get what you're talking about in high school, but again, most of what we're talking about is core competency, which are the little kids that hopefully are going to be bowling in high school at some point in time. It's when the parents, have time to get them there and the things that do that. But it's really not your state that would determine that. It's certainly your center, your youth directors, the folks that go with that. But I want to throw one more piece to that puzzle. We also asked them what time of year they wanted the programming. We detailed August to October, October to December, January to March, April, and then summer. What was the number one answer? Anybody? It was January to March. Guess what the worst answer was? It was August through October, which is where we currently push youth bowling at the two times where folks today don't want it. I mean, our big pushes are when league's going. And the other thing I would tell you too is, and some folks do this and some folks don't, but if you're activating all of your adult leagues to start September 10th through September 18th, what's the best time to floor your youth leagues? Better yet, what's the worst time to floor your youth leagues? September 10th to September 18th. But yet, for the most part, that's how we do it. You would want to wait to get your somewhere between 200 and 2,600 league bowlers on the floor, so you'd have a group to talk to try and floor their kids, just by waiting 2 weeks. But again, folks, today, they want this January through March. There is a hole in the sports world today for youth in January through February. It's really kind of when football transitions to basketball. There's no baseball. There's less for us to compete with at that time. And the other thing, with us doing it in August and through September, and all the studies will show you this, I am not this smart. This is just pure research that develops this. The other thing that we are really spending time combating and doing it in that time frame is what? It's back to school. Families haven't got comfortable with what they're going to be doing at that time. So if they're not hardcore bowlers, where your kids are, like mine, they're just going to bowl, we're not going to really have the opportunity to get them. So it's variety, if you will, that's going to provide us a lot of pieces. How many of you guys know what a blast-off is? A few of you? I would encourage anybody that doesn't know what this is to check it out. This is a great way to kick off your youth league. If you're starting a youth league on March 2nd, I would encourage you to have a blast-off the third week in January, where you just have a big community party. Maybe you do some things. And again, it doesn't matter the date. You can do it in the summer. You can do it in the fall. You can do it whenever it is. But you discount your bowling on a Saturday for a couple hours. 50-cent hot dogs, $1 Pepsis, whatever it is, to get your community engaged in your centers. And then right towards the end of that, when you've got all these kids down there having a good time, you start passing out some league activation flyers. And just right at the back end, right before, as they're walking out the door. Hopefully you've still got them when they're actually bowling. But then hey, youth leagues are forming, starting up 3 weeks, 4 weeks away. It would be awesome if you have an activation piece where you could actually sign them up that day. And some folks will do that and it'll be more successful. But did I say free? I didn't say free. But the activation is in your community. Local radio station, local businesses that your partners can trade in kind with, passing out information. Get folks talking about your center once a year as part of a blast-off. I mean, really, what's a bowling center? It's a community gathering spot. And that's really what we are. I think we've lost a little bit of that, maybe not all of us. But we're a community gathering spot for people to have fun and compete if that's what they choose or want to do. So maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, fire up this blast-off. You might end up with some adult bowlers over it. Bring as many folks from the community as you can in. You can run it as long as you want. You want to run an all-day Saturday, you could. I'd suggest running it for 2, maybe 3 hours, and then turn the price of bowling on at the end, and you'll probably drive some revenue from it that you might not have otherwise. Because that's right, you might have some folks stick around and do some additional play. So again, there's lots of ways to do this, but this is a very underutilized tool. And it's underutilized for one reason, it requires some work. It requires some commitment and some planning. You got to say, okay, 4 weeks from now we're going to do this. Somebody, you go call the radio station. You call the newspaper. You call the local magazine. You, right? That's 4 more people than work in any one area of a bowling center that does this, right? So that you, all of those things turn into you, right? So it's a lot of work, if you will. But I promise it'll pay off. I saw a hand over here, and then I got Melissa back here. Yes, sir. Yeah, those fellas that are in the room, guys like me, best thing you could do is find your 5 best moms. I mean, find your 5 best moms, have a soda, a cup of coffee, I don't know, alcohol, whatever it takes. Get your 5 best moms in a room, have a conversation. Where do you go for information? What do you do? Where's it at? And oh, by the way, you guys mind helping us activate a youth bowling program? We're going to do this blast off. Give them the flyer. Download it from the YRC. We'll send it to you. Give those 5 moms a flyer. And I say this very respectfully. Give them something they can do that can be passionate about. They'll deliver it for you. They just will. I got one that lives in my house that's that way. And it's incredible to watch. It's amazing what we will do for our kids. I mean, we just will. And where do I end up? I'm dragged along, right? Dragged along. But not kicking and screaming. I go willingly, some of the time. No, and that's another, Jack just said something that I try to stay away from just because of the weather, but extend your bowling center to the parking lot for a weekend. Put a couple bounce houses up. I mean, heck, a funnel cake stand that you might drive some revenue from for a weekend. I'm still trying to talk my guys into Junior Gold about having an outside merchandising funnel cake pronto pup. But that's me. But there's lots of ways to do it. You do this one time, it will be a core competency of your business for years to come. And the cool part is your community will respond by looking forward to it every year. So you'll be building new advocates every year for it. Notice how this is kind of in the middle of the presentation. It should really be up front. I mean, it really should be, because it's really the first thing that we should do to activate a program. And again, if we can help you with any of these, we should. The first thing I'm going to say is, hey, where's your best 5 moms? Because that's really the way it works today. 8 for 8, how many of you ran an 8 for 8 or a 10 for 10? I won't spend a lot of time on this because I think you have it, but this needs to become core competency of what we do. This is a filler. You have your kind of standard league program, then you have your short season, you have your shorter season, and your even shortest season. 8 for 8 fits into that. I'm going to show you an even shorter season in just a minute. But a product program could be a bag, could be a ball, could be a shirt, could be a snack bar item, could be a pizza. Can't be a beer. Can't be a beer. In this seminar, it can't be a beer. There is a seminar going on somewhere in here where it could be a beer, but not this one. 5 for 55. This is another one of Kim's programs that she ran, and it's just a shorter window. 5 weeks for $55, right, Kim? $59. Look at the ages, 6 through 12. There's a study that was done on the male ego, and this is one of the reasons why I like this program. And it details how we live and breathe and work competitively. And it will detail that if you haven't lived or learned a minimum competency of something, reading, writing, arithmetic, bowling, hitting a baseball, kicking a soccer ball, if you're not at a minimum level by the age of 14, you are not going to do it regularly in your lifetime. It now becomes something that you do on the side or something for fun. We have until the age of 14 to get them to a minimum level of competency. What's a minimum level of competency in bowling? It's back of the approach to the foul line. I mean, we're not talking about 200 average bowlers by the age of 14. They've just got to feel like they can do it regularly the same. They've got to feel like they can read, obviously, at a certain level by then. They've got to feel like they can be able to add and subtract and divide by these ages. That's why this youth segment is so important, because our egos, our competencies, our brains don't work in a way that allow us at 40 years old just to pick up a sport and learn it at a really high level because we didn't have that minimum competency. It doesn't mean they're outliers, doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but your average person that wants to be competitive, how many people fit into that category? Almost everyone. We might not all be competitive, we might not all achieve competitive natures, but we all start out that way. We all want to do better than we did before at whatever it is that we're doing, if you will. And so when you look at this program, how about something small to get them in? A 4-week Learn to Bowl program. USA Bowling 101, which we're going to talk about in the middle, and this is why I like this one. And there's not a high level of cost here. You know, we're not talking about a couple $100. It's not a high-end bowling ball. It's not all the things that go with that, and that's why it works. We're just getting them in, teaching them a little bit about the game, seeing if they are going to maybe put their pole in the water, if you will. See if they'll stay. See if they'll catch a little fish, come back to the lake or the pond, if you will. It certainly isn't a 32-week. We rolled out our Saturday morning programs. How did it go? Well, we just didn't get any action. Well, what's it look like? Well, I mean, it's a 32-week program. It's $10 a week. Anybody in here doing anything for 32 weeks at a time anymore? I mean, so what's an 8-year-old, a mom with 2 kids, and all the things that go on? What's her response going to be to that? No, thank you. We just can't keep talking to them in those terms. We have to move forward and think about what our customer looks like today, identify that, and then talk to them in those terms. Kids are no different than anybody else. They're consumers. Scouts! Who's got a scouting program in their area? Look at that number. 2.9 million Boy Scouts and 3.1 million Girl Scouts. Somebody tell me they don't have any scouts in their area. And I'm going to say 2.9 million boys and 3.1 million girls. You all have scouts in your area. It's a natural synergy. They need places to meet. You have meeting rooms. Reach out to your scout leaders. Yes, sir.
Is there a bowling merit badge?
There is a belt loop, Cub Scout belt loop, but there is no bowling merit badge. I did spend 4 months talking to the National Boy Scout group, and I found out that a merit badge for bowling would cost in the area of about $750,000. And so I chose to give you the information to go find the scouts locally and talk to them and call them. If you go to scouting.org, you put in your zip code, everything's right there for you. And you literally can pick up the phone, call your local pack. It's a wonderful organization the way it's structured. I'm going to mess it up now, but $750,000 was a little too much for us to chew on. But they did just do a welding merit badge, so the welding folks had some bucks that we didn't have. That can't be true. Scouting.org, yeah. Lots of ways to do it, and there's information in that in this development guide for you to kind of see where to go. USA Bowling 101, this is how many of you ran 2.0 as part of EPA's push last year? This is our youth piece of that. It comes with what to teach, when to teach it, how to do it. It's an 8-week program, can be trimmed to a 4-week program, could be made into a 6-week program, could be built into a 10-week program. All of those were even numbers. Yes, 5, 7, and 9 work as well. You pick. All the materials are there, what to teach them, how to do it. We're not talking about cores and cover stocks, and while I do know a little bit about that, and I spent some time doing that, and I can be fun at parties, the reality is we're talking about staggered stance with a follow-through, right? Back to a 4-step delivery, if you will, right? We're not talking about all the high-level things that come from an affinity to the sport. We're talking about staying on our feet from the back of the approach and the foul line and hitting the one in front. Just hit the one in front. And then whatever's left after the first ball, what do? You hit the one in front again. I mean, that's how it starts. But it has to be that simple in the beginning. Yes, sir? Yeah, they tell me there's a new sheriff in town at USBC. which some of you will think that's funny, and others won't really know what that means. But sanctioning is what we make it. I've stood here for 4 years saying, if your youth membership option is there and it's valuable to you, you should certify. You always should. I mean, the governing body is an important part of what we do within bowling. And I like to bottle it up in a future for the sport. I mean, that's really what it is. But if you don't think that product has value, we'll find other ways. I mean, we need to develop programs that get kids in and get them interested at a low cost. I don't know if you guys know this, but we took the youth membership product from 17 to 4 because we were trying to lower the cost basis of the barrier for entry. I tried to put a youth adult league together at a bowling center last year locally next to us because we wanted to bowl on Sundays. Nobody was offering it. And did you know that it's $34 for my 2 kids to certify and $42 for my wife and I? So $70-something to a group that might not ever even know what the sport is yet. It's just a group we're marketing to. So there's got to be a happy marriage. Do we want you to certify to all your leagues? Yes, absolutely. Is it important to the sport? Yes, absolutely. But not at the cost of having someone not be able to afford bowling. And I think a guy in my position, you probably haven't heard that from before. I mean, if they create an affinity for the sport, they're going to be members of USBC long term. So let's get them in, let's get them excited, and let's get them committed. And at some point in time, between get them in and get them committed, they will be members of USBC. Make sense to everybody? Do I want you to certify all your leagues? Yes. But not at the cost of losing someone over the price. We've got to provide value. That's our piece of it. Was there a question here somewhere?
No, but I want you saying that because we've never had anybody like you saying that. So.
I appreciate that. Neil, do we want them to certify all their leagues? Yes, we do. Of course we do. But again, not at losing a bowler over price. A center has to make a minimum amount of money from lineage, from a snack bar, from arcade maybe. There's lots of revenue streams in there. But just like in that adult youth model that we're talking about, these doubles leagues that we're going to run, or 4-mans, yeah, they got to be certified as part of the program. They do. But just remember, it's a cost. I would even encourage you to roll that into the lineage in some cases if you can, so that it's spread out if you confront it. But hopefully I answered your questions. In some cases it'll fit, and in some cases it won't. Again, this is a very scalable program that you can run. Homeschool. Homeschool. God, what's the largest growing segment of education in the United States? Homeschool. It's the fastest growing. More folks are keeping their kids home today than ever, and it's growing. I don't know how we would do that at my place, but there are folks that believe in it. And what advantage do they have to your business by doing it? They're available during the day. They're of non-school hours, or excuse me, school hours, if you will. And in some cases, and you'll have to check your state regs, in a lot of states, I believe it is 38, there is a PE requirement for homeschool, which bowling fits in. I know Illinois is one, I know Kansas is one, I know New York's one. So you offer a homeschool bowling program, that's a PE credit towards them moving up the ladder. So again, another revenue stream for you, if you so choose to want it. There's some websites, there's some information in there that you can go check out. You'll have to do some pretty decent searching locally, but most homeschool groups want to be social with other homeschool groups. So usually if you pick one off, if you will, you're going to end up with 8 or 10 as part of the programming. There's no doubt. It's funny, that's like a consistent thing. Well, they don't want to pay for anything. What are they paying for now? Nothing. If you don't have a homeschool program, you're driving zero revenue from it. So find your homeschoolers in your area and drive some revenue. Negotiate that piece. Maybe it isn't as much revenue if you want, but if your place is empty, drive some revenue from it. It's all back to the capacity. I'm not against the lineage model, so I'm preface this. I'm a little bit of an apologist, right? But your lineage model is dictated upon your capacity. If you are empty from 1 to 5, is $450 a game going to make sense? Probably isn't. So you've got to find that middle ground to have it make sense. You've got to work that back into the overall structure of your business and inevitably your P&L statement. But we got a whole group of people now that are basically closed at that time because maybe we didn't want to do something different. So that's a whole nother conversation to be had. So I appreciate you bringing it up. You gave me an opportunity there. After school, yes, sir. It is 13% going into 2014, up from 9% in 2008. Yeah, it's the fastest growing piece. Yeah. Is that right, Liz? I want to tell them something that isn't true. We did that, Emily and I did that research as part of a seminar. I think that's pretty close. But I think it's 13 up from 9 6 years ago. Yeah, there's more folks than ever. There's some, and I just say this very respectfully, I'm not the smartest dude in the room, I never am, but that Google's an amazing tool. I mean, ask Jeeves the right question and she will deliver. I haven't figured out Siri yet. My son's better at that than I am, but I like to invite her places too when Josh is there, because I don't know if I'm not clear enough when I talk into it. But that Google's an incredible thing. A lot of this research that we've done is just readily available. We didn't have to go pay for it, which was nice. Especially those studies on on youth activities or sports. There's lots of them out there. After school, this is something we were really good at that we lost. Cost of busing, insurance, the things that went with it. I get it. I'm not advocating you to go spend a bunch of money to get 30 kids that cost you more than well, wait a minute. I might be. I'm kidding. If we get more kids in and out of our centers, we'll do better. I don't want you to have to invest in it to put your business at peril. But if Tuesday afternoons and Thursday afternoons are the right time to have those kids in there, and they will come straight from school as part of an after-school program, we probably don't need to provide the busing anymore. Go talk to your PTA and your PTO groups. They're usually operating the after-school programs at your grade schools and your middle schools. We have my kids go on Mondays and Fridays because Jen and I both work. And they do all kinds of things. They really, truly do. Another piece of this is summer camp programs like Camp Carter that my kids are going to. They're outdoors from 8 to 1, and they're participating in a bowling program from 1 to 4. That's the camp busing them to your place, not you going and get them. Same thing with the after-school programming. If it's priced right, they'll do it. But a lot of information, again, I'm breaking all my own presentation rules as I talk about, but I want you to have the information. There's lots of ways to do this, is my message. And for the most part, in a lot of cases, we're empty. I'll have a proprietor that says, well, I don't want those kids in there before my adult league bowlers come on because I got to run the lanes and all that goes with that. And I apologize for saying this, but my question back to them, which I don't ever get to say because I can't, it just gets me in trouble, is, you don't like money? I mean, we've got to make it work. We've got to find time to floor these kids. We've got to find time to build this programming. But that is an old mindset that says that they have to bowl 3 games. They don't. They can bowl 1 game, a couple Baker games, and be out in an hour. They can bowl doubles leagues versus 5-man leagues. Spread them all across the house. There's lots of ways to do this. Get them out in time to move on to that next space. How many of you are running adult leagues early and late, full shifted? Good for you, young man. You are the lone wolf, my friend, which makes you very, very special, and congratulations for that. But we used to be, right? I mean, that's the kind of what we did. I say right a lot because I'm looking for somebody to tell me I'm right, I think. But when you really think about that, we've moved our adult leagues back in a lot of cases because we don't have late leagues anymore to give folks time to commute. But we didn't backfill it with after-school programming. So let's just backfill it with some programming there. You could run your standard Saturday morning program on a Tuesday afternoon and probably get some kids. How many kids does it take to have a successful youth program? 20. If you have 0 now, how many kids does it take to run a successful youth program? 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we? I mean, I just hate this because we invited a group of advocates to come in to kick off USA Bowling, and we had a lady that was part of it, and she was so jazzed, and she was stoked, and she loved the program, and she went home, we said, okay, we think this person's going to run it, this person's going to run it, this person's going to struggle. She was in the going to get it done category. And so we walked them through the program, and I called her back and I said, hey, how many did you get on the floor? And she said, well, we didn't floor it. And I said, why? And she said, well, we only had 8 kids. And I said, well, what'd you do with them? She said, we just asked them to come back for the next segment of our Saturday morning program. I said, you didn't floor them? And she said, no. And I had no idea what to say into the phone right there. So I said, well, okay, maybe we could do it a little bit differently next time, when the whole time I was thinking you turned 8 kids away. 8 kids turns into how many the next time? Have you met a kid that didn't have a friend? Especially today. I mean, my little man can have a conversation with any one of you at any point in time about anything he might be thinking about. I mean, it's just a different group of kids today. They're just very open to the world. I mean, if they were excited about something, they're going to get somebody that probably lives next door excited about something, because that's who we spend time with. I hope that makes sense there. Floor them. Doesn't matter how much. Floor them. Floor them. I know it's time and energy, but floor them. So after school is something we got to go after. And I'll spend just a little bit of time on this, but USA Bowling, it's Little League Baseball in a bowling center. If you've had kids that have played sports, you know how to run this. Folks tell me it's too complicated. If you have kids that have played sports, you know how to run this. 1 coach per team. A team mom, a team manager, somebody that's engaged. A draft to kick it off. 8 teams, 4 teams, 2 teams, 12 teams, 20 teams. Whoever shows up. Doubles, trios, 4-man, 5-man. It doesn't really matter how many. You want to put 7 on a team. Run some bakers. You could do that too. We recommend 1 formal team game and 2 baker games as part of the activation. We believe at those lower ages, we got to get them in and out in an hour and 15 minutes. And oh, by the way, if you drove the same amount of revenue in an hour and 15 minutes that you're currently driving at 2.5 or 3 hours, would you care? You wouldn't, would you? What's the attention span of a child? It is 3 to 5 minutes per year of life by the study. So a 10-year-old is about 50 minutes max. So getting them to bowl 3 games that takes 2.5 hours might be just a little bit long. And so let's build programming that's an hour and 15 minutes. Again, I didn't say anything about lowering the price. There's a structured belief in youth sports that a youth activation of 8 or 10 weeks is probably, I'm generalizing across the entire country, $100. Could be 75 in some areas, 55 in another. In New York, it's probably 400. And very respectfully, I'm sorry, but it probably is. So again, it's all in giving them the experience. We're asking them to do it our way instead of just giving them what they want, which might be an hour less. And if we give them what they want, they will return. They will do it again. They will do it more often. They will continue to bowl. They will continue to be part of our program. They will build an affinity for the sport, and we'll have all of these new members and all of this money to go build more bowling programming. We might even have more centers that get built, which would be nice, in better locations. Yeah, I like it. If you don't mind, because you're full and so you've got a bunch of money on you because you're full every night, would you just mind saying 7 words? Just, I like it. Tracy, say something relating to youth bowling. I like it. Say something related to youth bowling somewhere over here. Nobody? I like it. My point is, I'm going to like all your ideas. There isn't one idea that you're going to have that I'm not going to like, because now you're thinking about youth bowling. Passion beats talent. It does. If you're passionate about something and you are measured against somebody who's talented but not passionate about something, you're going to do better. If you go to hire folks in your centers and the things that find passionate people, find people that are passionate about things. And so again, if you are more passionate, if you walk out of here and you're like, man, those guys are crazy, but I think I could go do this, go do it. Don't do any of this, go do it. Because it'll work, because you're passionate about it. If there is one thing in here that you liked, go do it. Am I saying that you have to do all of these things? No, I'm not. With the one exception, which were those 7 bullets at the beginning, all of your programs have to have for us to keep these kids long term. But all of these other things are just options. Did I say we can't run Saturday morning programming and we shouldn't? Did I ever say that? I got to be clear, because when I first came into this, I had folks, well, he doesn't want us running programs on Saturday anymore. Not true. Not true. Not true. Run a Saturday program. Run all the birthday parties you want after. Get those birthday party kids to come back in and bowl on Saturday morning. Have kids in your center from Saturday mornings to Saturday night to Monday all day long. They're delinquent from school because they're both... Wait a minute. Okay, sorry. Just kidding. The Roll and Grow will be an upgrade to the membership. It's a $4 standard, and then you can upgrade to Roll and Grow for $3.50 a child. Still there. Great. Still there for you. Exact same program. It's actually enhanced a little bit. It's got a couple more options. But if you don't mind, stop by the booth and we'll talk to you about it. But it's still there for you. Yes, sir. It's a great idea. I like it. And I actually do think it's a great idea, and I like it. I wasn't just saying that. I actually do think it's a great idea. We got 3 new movie theaters in our area. What's new to the movie industry today that didn't exist maybe 6 or 8 years ago? And this is going to take us full cycle back to when I was a kid. There's a nursery going into most new movie theater builds. And they're doing exactly what you just said. All it really is they're turning on a Disney movie, or they're turning on something while the parents go watch movies. We haven't done it to our kids yet. Every time we walk by there, I tell my kids, hey, would that be, you think you had something that you'd want to do while Mom and I... No, not really. But how many bowling centers did you walk in 25 years ago that the nursery wasn't the first door on the right when you walked in the front door? I realize it's insurance and manpower and those types of things, but if we are going to get back to being community gathering places where families collect to do things, we're going to need to consider that again at peak times. You know, and to your point, and I don't talk about this a lot because some folks think it's a little bit offensive, but we usually have 2 ends to a bowling center. Usually right lane 1 and the other end, right? Sometimes they're double booked, but for the most part it's 1 to 12 or 16 or 24 or 32. Think about what's on your walls at both ends. There might be some lockers there, might not be some lockers there, might be just a plain wall that has some seating. How about some soft materials with exactly what you just talked about? 42-inch screen TV running some movies. I mean, would adults stop paying for a babysitter to go bowl league if that was there? Do you have to have a person to man it? No, you really wouldn't have to. Use at your own risk. Somebody going to carry out the TV? I don't know. Maybe put a small fence around it. There are lots of ways, is my point. There are lots of what tie it down. And I used to ride my bike to school, right? And I had the bike lock that I locked it down. I'm kidding. There's lots of ways to do it, is my point. It's just another one of those ideas. And you guys know this as well as I do. You spend more time. I mean, I always tell people I spent a lot of time in a bowling center. I did, a lot. And I don't spend nearly as much time in a bowling center today as I'd like to. But these things haven't changed all that much. It's just the customer that's changed. It's just the consumer. And so if we'll just start filling in the needs of the consumer within our body, we'll be more successful. Has bowling changed all that much? To someone that just walked in the door and isn't going to necessarily know what they're doing to begin with and then have to learn it? At that level, it's really not all that much different. So just remember that, because we've got to get those folks in first. We're not going to have a drove of 240 average bowlers come back in. And for the most part, what I remember about being in a bowling center, I was one of those people. I'm all the trouble. You guys want that other group anyway. Yes, sir? I like it. A little bit like what Kim's talking about for the summer. But essentially a membership. You could provide a family membership for bowling that they could open play anytime lanes were available. Lanes were available. You'd get more, they'd be bowling together. That'd be a good thing. I mean, it really would be. Cover a couple more things. Tournaments, run them. You pick. We got a bunch of ideas for you, but run them. There's nothing more impactful than someone that bowls picking up the bowling ball again. And if you can drive revenue from it, I'm in for that. My kids play a lot of baseball, and we spend a lot of money moving around, and you know they're both decent at it, but not great. Nobody's playing in the majors. But we do a lot of things for our kids, and we spend a lot of money there. So I try not to get lost in what it would actually cost to do all these things, because we'll do just about anything for our kids to be healthy, happy, confident, and successful later on. And so competition builds that. But tournaments are a great retention tool. If you have capacity, if you have open lanes, run a tournament. Invite some folks in. Adult, youth, boys, girls, mixed, handicap, scratch. If they're picking up a bowling ball, I'm in. Doesn't really matter the format. We'll certainly help you if you need to in this area. But all day, all the time. How many? This is RABS, the way they run their leagues. There's a bunch of, notice the days. That's really why this is up here. Wednesday, covered, check. Friday, covered. Saturday, covered. Tuesday, covered. Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, covered. There should probably be something going on in your center every day in the area of youth all year long. There really probably should be. Is it a requirement to be a BPA member? It should be. I'm just kidding. Where's Amy Curie hopefully is somewhere else, right? I'm just kidding. But I mean, just think about it. There's something to be had. Go to the resource center. Use it. The tools are there. Don't wait for us. We were built for you. We were, this youth department that's doing and giving these things and running these tournaments and just really giving and servicing and all of those things. But at the end of the day, if you don't need us, go build your own. The final frontier, which is more kids going bowling more often. You know, we got 10 million kids going bowling in a year's time in 4,800 centers. What if they all just went one more time? What if half of them went, excuse me, what if 10% of them went one more time? What if one of them went one more time? We would be in a better place than we are now. And I want to close with this. And I say this very frankly. We spend a lot of time talking about the downfall of bowling and why it happened and these darn bowling balls and that oil and the topography of the lane and all the things that go with that. And certainly, it impacted these things. It did. But I want to challenge you to go read a book. It's called Bowling Alone. It's about 700 pages. It's a big book. Very little of it's about bowling. But it's about consumers and people and habits and the things and why they do certain things. There's a large percentage of our consumers today that are commuting to work that didn't at one time. There's a large percentage of our consumers today that lived in a family, father, mother, and kids that are divorced today. Real estate values have impacted this sport in a decimating way. My point is, if we will get back to the real problems, instead of talking about the things that we believe are the problems, we will start to turn this around. It's the experience that they have when they land in the centers that's going to determine whether they do it or not. I can make a case, show you data, and prove to you that real estate values and the divorce rate are the two biggest reasons that bowling has declined over the years. And that book will give you a big piece of that. It absolutely will. The time and energy of a mother today. A lot of cases when we were as big as we were, Mom didn't work. And it is, Susan, what we did. And so we have to think about that and how we floor our leagues and the things that we do And we've got to be cognizant of moms and the time and the kids and the things that come from that. And if we'll do that, and we will give them what they want, which is skill instruction, building self-worth and self-confidence, when they want it, which might be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sundays in addition to Saturdays, if we will recognize them for their achievements immediately, instant gratification of what they achieve, and if we've got adults that are part of the program, in some cases actually competing with the kids, we can turn this thing around. We really can. Competitive bowling will turn back around and you will see us start to grow again. If you're not a believer today, come back to another seminar. I will make you into a believer. We are going to do this. It is going to happen. I thank you for your time and energy. Have a great Bowl Expo. Thanks for being here.